Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle 101 webinar series. Today we'll be going over our main product, NG Firewall, going through some slides as well as a demonstration of the product, and of course answer any questions along the way. My name is Shannon Bonfiglio. I'm part of the marketing team here at Untangle, and I'll be your host today. I also have with us Chad McNaughton, who's one of our sales engineers, and he'll be going through the slides and the demonstration. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. Please be sure you're selecting the correct audio preference. On the right-hand side, you'll see the option to use your computer speakers or a telephone. If you decide to use your computer speakers, just be sure you have a strong internet connection. If you decide to use the telephone, you will need to use the access code that's provided. As always, we have a few staff members on hand to help answer questions. So if you have any questions throughout this presentation, please just submit them in the Q&A box on the right-hand side, and we'll try and get to those either by answering in the questions box or answering them live. Let's see, this webinar is being recorded, so if you need to rewatch this or want to share this with anyone else at a later date, it will be uploaded on the Untangle YouTube channel within 24 hours after this has ended, so just keep a lookout for that email. And as always, if we don't get to your question, or if you have a very specific question in terms of your network setup or want to get a more specific demonstration, please email us at sales@untangle.com. We'll be happy to help with that. And I believe that's it. I'll pass it over to Chad now.
All right, thanks, Shannon. As Shannon said, this is an Untangle 101 Intro to Untangle series webinar. We're going to do a very light touch, a basic introduction to Untangle and how we look and feel, the kind of apps we use, and we'll also touch briefly on Command Center, our cloud-hosted centralized management. As you can see on my screen here, we do have a lot of interesting data for small to medium businesses that experience things like phishing, malware, ransomware, that kind of stuff. Malware and ransomware threats are always on the rise. Social engineering attacks are rising. Phishing emails are still an easy attack vector on small to medium businesses. That comes down to a lot of different things. Obviously, there's a lack of resources, maybe a lack of user education. Something like Untangle can help, obviously, to prevent them from getting to links that are classified as phishing, scanning, SMTP before it gets to end users. A big part of that to me, though, is user education. There's no software that can teach someone to not click a link, right? So sometimes we have to go a little bit deeper than that, than the software does. So user education is a big part of this to me still, especially in small businesses where they don't really have all those IT resources. As I said, they often lack expertise. Resources is the number one lack, I feel, and they're daunted by some of the complexity of having 2 or 3 or 4 different solutions to protect their business. That can also be pretty expensive for a small to medium business. You can see here, IT security budgets are rising in small to medium businesses, but they're not big. So about 74% of SMBs don't even have appropriate personnel or budget to mitigate cybersecurity risks. That's the number one problem I'm talking about, is a lack of resources, personnel. About half of SMBs have no understanding at all of how to protect companies against cyber attack. And data breaches have cost small to medium businesses $383,000 on average. You can see these all come from the Verizon Data Breach Investigation Report. You can check these online as well. You see the link there. We also have a link up to the HTTPS volume. So the level of HTTPS encryption on the web has nearly doubled since 2016, 2017. We use a link there to let'sencrypt.org's stats page, which will show you the number of HTTPS requests being made every day. And it's in the States, it's at about 86% of websites using HTTPS encryption. So that helps, obviously, with security, but it's not nearly enough. So when you want to really talk cybersecurity, something at your edge to protect your local network, we would introduce you to Untangle. So this is a pretty comprehensive network security solution for SMBs. It's quick and easy to deploy. You can do that a number of different ways, which we'll talk about. And it's easy to manage. I will show you the centralized management. Our cloud-hosted centralized management is all free of charge. It's just your account management page. This is a subscription-based software solution. We try to keep it pretty low cost for SMB budgets. So like I said, there's a lot of ways to deploy Untangle, which we'll go into, and that can be a big part of the budget. You don't necessarily have to buy hardware from us, etc. You choose your own hardware, choose ours. You can go virtual, you can go cloud. Between those options, this is a pretty easy plug and play setup, and you can even do things like trialing Untangle, setting up your configuration and then saving that configuration before you ever actually make your purchase. Then when you purchase those corresponding apps, you've already got a backup of your configuration. Like we say, easy plug and play, easy deployment. There are multiple channels of support. Untangle provides very proactive, actionable alerts, really good notifications, and really good historical reporting. Untangle can keep up to a year of data if you want to go update that in our reports module. By default, it keeps about a week. We also provide advanced support. We do remote support, live support if you subscribe to it. And we do offer seamless transparency for filtering on the network. So the bottom line is we're going to help you protect and control and then also monitor your business critical networks. So we can monitor everything from a mobile device connecting and the app they're using to what your servers are doing all day, how much bandwidth they're chewing up with updates, etc. So we'll talk about a few of Untangle's products. As Shannon mentioned, we are focusing on our main product, the NG Firewall. This is our basic software platform for deploying the apps that we include on top of this here. So the network-based security policy apps, whether we're connecting to an Active Directory, filtering content on the web, those are all basically installed on top of the Untangle NG Firewall platform. So our apps are a little different than others because they inspect traffic simultaneously and then enforce rules based on the conditions, the criteria. They will share an admin panel database reporting. The live reports are really interesting. They're very easy to customize. If you do Untangle's complete package, you get close to 400 reports by default, though. So there's really easy ways to drill down with condition buttons on the dashboard and in the reports, which I'll show you. This is a really big change for some folks coming from other products where the reporting is complicated. Maybe it's just cumbersome to find, username is jsmith2. What are they doing on the internet? That's a very, very simple thing with Untangle's reporting now. When we get into the product here, the demo server, or if you go to our website, you'll see that we have our modules broken down into 6 basic categories. So you'll see protection, filtering, performance, connection management, and then a couple of add-ons. I mentioned if you subscribe to live support, we do advanced remote support. I'm sorry, that's an additional, or it's included with our complete package. So each app that you see is available by itself. If it's a paid app, you can do it a la carte if you wish. If you're wanting to filter the web, you see mobile devices, you need to shape traffic, it almost always makes more sense to look at the Untangle complete package because it includes all these apps here as well as live support. For resellers or MSPs, people who are wanting to deploy Untangle to their customers, you see Branding Manager down there under add-ons. That'll actually let you update Untangle's interfaces and splash pages, block pages, with your corporate logo, your corporate information, that kind of thing. I've mentioned a couple times there are multiple ways to deploy Untangle, and this is technically a hybrid cloud product. So it is cloud managed, but it's an on-premise gateway, like I said, leveraging cloud intelligence. So you could also host that on the public cloud. As you see there at the bottom, we can run this in Amazon Web Services or Azure with a couple of different types of licensing. I mentioned the Untangle apps being a little bit different on the slide before. Virtual pipelining is what makes them different. So a lot of other services, products like this, will use what's called proxy chaining, and it can be very inefficient for content filtering because it's more of an assembly line and it takes longer for a packet of information to be filtered. It physically takes longer for the filtering to happen. So Untangle's apps inspect all this traffic simultaneously. This removes that latency. The analogy I use when I do these demos or webinars in pre-sales is that other devices that use proxy chaining are an assembly line. Untangle uses virtual pipelining, which is more of a dog pile. So an HTTP packet comes across Untangle. All of Untangle's apps see it and immediately pile on and inspect it. If one of those apps needs to take action based on its conditions, it does. So it could be a lot faster to inspect traffic. This is one of the things that enables us to do things like virus blocking and HTTPS decryption here on the box itself without having to offload those. Another thing that enables that is Untangle's light hardware footprint. This runs Linux Debian as the underlying OS. We are on Debian 9, which is the stretch kernel. So that allows it to be run on smaller, cheaper hardware. Whether that's our hardware or yours, it's fine. And as I said, you can also do this in the cloud, or you could run this as a virtual machine in VMware. We have an OVA file built for VMware, but the ISO file that you can download from Untangle will work in VMware and other virtual environments. Untangle support will support your VMware environment with you. That's what we build for. It's what we support. But it works in lots of different virtual environments. I mentioned Untangle being a bit of a hybrid cloud product and being powered by cloud intelligence. What we would go into detail with on that is Scout IQ. Scout IQ is an interesting animal. This is part of our virus blocker app. It's included at no charge. This is cloud-based threat intelligence. So it's going to aggregate anonymous telemetry data from NG firewalls around the world. If an NG firewall somewhere in Belgium sees some zero-day information, some new telemetry data tied to a known piece of malware, it will upload that into Scout IQ where it's analyzed and then dispersed to other Untangles, so everyone's updated. So this can be a second layer of defense against emerging threats. So having Untangle at your gateway in Virus Blocker, we run Bitdefender there, and we actually do the Bitdefender Cloud Scan and the Untangle Cloud Scan. And I can show you guys those on my demo server in just a second. So this, like I said, is included at no additional cost, and it's a really interesting second layer of information that we gather on malware, ransomware viruses. The other aspect of our cloud intelligence is Command Center. So this is our centralized management for your NG Firewall deployments. This is going to let you easily manage multiple site deployments with zero-touch provisioning. With this enabled and everything configured, you no longer always have to drive out to a customer's site to install their Untangle. You could actually mail the Untangle box to them and set up zero-touch provisioning so it can pull down its configuration from your Command Center without you really being on site. So you can get alerts, threat histories, audit logs across all sites. Your dashboard in Command Center, which I'll show off here in a second, is an aggregate dashboard. It's a single pane that shows some reports across all of your Untangle deployments that are leveraging Command Center. So you can also manipulate licenses here, assign them, unassign them, move them to different servers. You can update software in batches. You can do backups. You can actually reboot a device from Command Center now, which is a new fun feature. One of the most interesting aspects of Command Center is its ability to clone, edit, and push policies from one Untangle to another. This is where we can create template configurations. We can say box A's configuration needs to go to box B, C, and E. Box D needs something different. We can do all that through Command Center. We can also manage endpoints now that have Malwarebytes Enterprise installed on them. That's a new integration that we have with Malwarebytes. It's a really interesting thing. We can actually see endpoints sessions on the web. We can see what's installed on the device through Command Center. We don't have to remote into the Untangle server to see what those endpoints are doing on the web currently. So it's an interesting new level of visibility that we've never had in the cloud here before recently. I mentioned Untangle does offer a line of hardware. If you want to just get a box from us with Untangle pre-installed on it, you'll get a warranty. That way you don't have to go through the whole, burning a disk or creating a bootable USB to install on your own hardware. So we do have some options here if you want to just get a piece of hardware from us. You can see we do go pretty small. The nomenclature here is basically rated for the device count that box is going to be able to filter. Our licensing is all by unique IPs. So when we say a U150 will be licensed for up to 150 devices, that's perfect. We could also say U150 is only licensed for 12 devices if you just want better hardware, but you only have 10 or 12 computers to filter. So our licensing isn't specifically tied to these pieces of hardware with that nomenclature, but that's what the hardware specs are going to reflect. A U150 is built to filter up to 150 concurrent devices and so on. So you can see we keep to pretty modest size networks here. We focus on small to medium businesses, SOHOs, But we do go up to pretty large environments there, 1,500, 3,000 concurrent devices. So if you do need a piece of hardware, this is all listed on our website. The specs are there as well as the retail price. I would recommend contacting sales at untangle.com if you are looking to buy a piece of hardware. There's always promos running. If you have a competitor's product, we have a little trade-in program, that kind of thing. So I'm going to jump out of our slide deck here and get over to the Untangle demo server. So that's demo.untangle.com. You're all welcome to log on and follow the bouncing ball with me here as we go. As Shannon said, though, this is going to be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube this afternoon. If I go too fast, if English isn't your first language, you can always go to our YouTube later and rewatch this. But we're on demo.untangle.com right now. As you can see, I'm on my dashboard. This is generally where it throws you if you just log in remotely from Command Center. As I said, the dashboard, the reports are very robust. You're able to completely customize this dashboard here if you want to turn these things off or on. You go create new ones. If you just want to go say, I want to see the top sites being visited every day by everyone, you could say top sites by request. So there that is. I'll add it to my dashboard. So now it's down here right at the bottom. This is where those conditions live, to simply drill down to one username, to an IP, etc. I like to point out in demos and webinars that these dashboard widgets here will max out at 24 hours of information. As I said, though, Untangle can keep up to 365 days. So if I want to go farther back than 24 hours, I can just click right here on the lines in the widget and say Open in Reports. So now we're in the Reports viewer, and I can do anything I need to with this report. I can completely customize it, save it as a new report. I could add the same conditions. If I had a condition set on my dashboard, that would actually carry over to this reports viewer. And then this is where I can say I need to go way, way back. If I'm keeping 6 months of data, I can say, well, I'm going to see what this person was doing on these sites every day for 3 months. This is where I can do that. So by default, when you install our complete package, you get close to 400 reports. As I said, it's very robust reporting. I feel like that can be a little bit overwhelming for some folks who are new to Untangle. That's a lot of information that we gather. You can, though, just click in the little search box down here and say, I just want to see the username reports. And you'll see in real time, it just narrows it down to the apps that can show you that. So it does really fast filtering. You can create a report from scratch as well, if you just want to create a new report for yourself. This is a really robust, open-ended system. As I said, all these can be customized. You can download a PNG file of this if someone wants an image real quick of a certain report. You can also just add it to your dashboard from here. So Untangle's Reports app also offers email template reports, summary reports that you can set up per user. The thing we're able to do there is eliminate certain information from our daily summary report because someone in human resources, for example, won't care about your interface usage, your CPU load. They'll care about websites visited and mobile apps. So we would just, shoot you to an article where you can download a JSON file of an executive summary template, which has those built in already. But you can actually create any kind of template you want like that in our Reports app, which lives right here under the applications. This is where you would come in and change your data retention. If I wanted to keep up to a year, I could. The email templates live right here. I've been pointing these out a lot lately because we've been getting questions about customized summary reports here recently. And we do a very interesting thing with them here. And we actually have one pre-built that we can send you a link to. So you can just come over here and hit import. And that will import anything that you've got to prepend or append these settings here. And then you just create a reports user and you assign them their template. So it's a really interesting thing. They can get that daily, weekly, monthly, however they want to do it. But keep in mind, that could be tailored for anyone, any piece of information they want. As a network admin, you no longer have to, cobble together some sort of daily, weekly summary report for someone. We can just do that one time and send you the report, and you've got it. I did want to touch on the config menu here real quick. This is an intro to Untangle, so we're not going to dive deep here. This is a minefield of rabbit holes that we won't dive down. But Untangle does do some really interesting things, and we do some of it by default. Some of that is alerting. So the device itself does have about 20 alerts built in here that will help. And we also do a few bypass rules by default, which I always mention. As I said, Untangle licenses by unique concurrent IP addresses. So if I have 165 IPs showing up, maybe some of those are voice over IP phones, or maybe some of them are IoT devices, thermostats, or security cameras. Keep in mind, any device on your network that meets these conditions can be bypassed from layer 7 filtering apps, which eliminates them from your licensing. So if I had a local printer that I didn't want filtered, don't filter this local printer. I could do just a source address is, then I throw in its local address, and I leave that on bypass, and that thing no longer counts on my license. This is a really, really important tool for a lot of small businesses, because maybe you only have 10 computers, but we're seeing 20 IPs. We would want to bypass some of that. Obviously, VoIP doesn't really need to be filtered. Most printers don't, unless they're Wi-Fi. They use apps on your tablet, your phone. So keep in mind, the licensing itself is pretty modular too, but we can't always create rules to isolate that to just a few devices you need to filter. And as I said, there's a lot more here to go over. Demo.untangle.com is your best option for that. We don't exactly have time to dive too deep into that. So we'll jump into some of the apps here. This is the Untangle Complete package. You are seeing a few redundant apps here for display purposes. Things like Application Control Lite, Web Monitor, Virus Blocker Lite. These are unnecessary. They're here just for display, though most of them will be overwritten when you install their full version. So since we're still talking about bypass rules, a little visual reminder of what a bypass rule will bypass is basically these apps up here. So devices will still have access to policy management, failing over to a second WAN, but they won't be filtered by any of these apps. So they, for example, wouldn't have their traffic scan for viruses, whether it's HTTP, SMTP, or FTP. We wouldn't be able to scan these file types that they're downloading. So when we do filter traffic, as I said earlier, our virus blocker is pretty interesting. One of the most interesting things it does is scan file types. So if I go to my Gmail and I try to download this MP3 that my friend emailed me, with this box checked, Untangle will scan that download before it gets to me. This could be a really crucial thing for what I was talking about earlier in the slide deck about software trying to stop people from clicking on things. We can't always do that, right? So user education is still a huge undertaking, but it's an important thing in 2019. What we're doing right here is attempting to take those users out of the equation. I use Excel spreadsheets as a default example a lot because they're a little notorious for viruses, for things like a macro in a spreadsheet having an infection. So this would actually let us scan that for viruses, infections, before it gets to the person who clicks on it. So that would be for a download. If we're looking for more action in malware, ransomware, antivirus, web filter also helps out. This is where we actually block sites that are known to be malware call homes and distribution points. And a really interesting thing that we do here is also blocking phishing and fraud sites. So if someone gets a phishing email with a link that says your password is expired, you better click here or you're going to owe us $100. If they click the link, we're still going to attempt to block where it's redirecting them to. So this is a huge database of URLs that comes from a vendor called Zavello. They become kind of an industry standard in the States, but they're located out here in Denver by our Colorado office. And they actually used to be part of the company that broke off and became Untangled 16 years ago. So we have a really good relationship with them, and they have close to 600 million URLs in this category list, and that's all hosted in their cloud. So that's another interesting thing about Untangle is this is not a list that's installed on your device. You don't have to maintain this list or prune it, and neither do we. Zavello does that. You can do a quick look up here. I hope this says social networking. Twitter is social networking. I like to tell people in demos and in webinars this quick tip. One URL can be in up to 3 individual categories in this list. So blocking any one of those will block ESPN.com, but you could then whitelist it. You can also blacklist things. You see, we try to blacklist anything that has the word web proxy in it. If I were to try to go to a web proxy right now, you would see that this anonymizer would likely block me. What I could do is I could go to stealthy.co, which is a very popular web proxy. We're not talking about a mobile app. We're not talking about a VPN app. We're talking about a browser proxy. This is a pretty nefarious thing for content filters. Obviously, you have to be able to catch this at the URL level as well as at the mobile app level. So you can see I was able to get this stealthy because this landing page doesn't do anything. If I actually click web proxy, though, you'll see that that's not okay. It's not excellent. So we have to go because we got blocked. So that's what Untangle's content filtering will look like when they go to a block page. They get told no. That's why I say branding manager is important. You can change that syntax to be you. It'll always tell them why they were blocked, though, either a category or a blacklist. So we do the blacklist and whitelist. You can also import these from another service if you have one. The rules tab is a very interesting thing because you can differentiate people here just within the web filter app. You don't always have to make a separate policy to block or pass different traffic for different devices, different users. Then on the advanced tab, I like to point out a little bit of HTTPS processing here without decrypting it. This is still a very valuable tool, server name indicators. This is how we can still block a lot of HTTPS without needing to decrypt it. This is very valuable for things like mobile devices. If your organization, a school, for example, allows BYOD, people to bring their own mobile devices, sometimes it's not always practical or applicable to try to force the Untangle root certificate to decrypt their traffic. So we can still block things like pornography and some proxy sites here with SNI. So that's basically what the web filter looks like, the virus blocker looks like. You'll see a lot of different flavors of VPN down there, WAN balancing failover. We do leverage authentication, whether you're using Active Directory, Radius, or something like Google. We can leverage OAuth as well with Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. We can do those through our captive portal as well. So if mobile devices need to sign in, if you want people to log in with their Facebook email on your Wi-Fi, we can do things like that. There is a lot to cover here, obviously, but I wanted to take a quick break. Shannon, are there any questions that haven't been answered yet that we could jump on? Or
Yeah, there was a question about the paid versus free packages.
Sure.
If you want to kind of go over that.
Sure. What you're seeing here is every app we offer, so it's hard to differentiate. I would recommend going to untangle.com. And if you go over to our products and hover over it, you'll see a software packages link. And this will show you a side-by-side comparison. You'll see over here, free. We do offer some handy free apps. It doesn't offer any layer 7 filtering. It doesn't offer any layer 7 traffic shaping. So if you just want the free firewall app, the free intrusion prevention app, those are available, but they don't really include any layer 7 functions. Or let's see what else, live support, that kind of thing. But like I said, everything is available a la carte individually as well. If you come over to Buy Online, you can see all of our products, all of our prices. As I said earlier, we're a pretty transparent company. We like to include all this stuff. So if you do have any questions, as Shannon said, email us sales@untangle or presales@untangle.com.
While you're there, Chad, can you show people how they can do a free trial as well?
Yeah, you bet. So if you hover over Get Untangle here as well, you can do free download. And this is where you will get 14 days of our paid apps. This is the complete package of Untangle. As I said earlier, it's a cool way to trial it, to really test drive it on your network, because you can install this on just about anything. This is really the only way to truly trial it, I feel like, on your network. You could do Untangle in bridged mode behind your existing router or firewall, so you don't really necessarily have to take down the network or change anyone's gateway addresses. We just drop in bridge mode behind the router, and we can start filtering traffic for 2 weeks. I mentioned using the ISO for virtual machines. The OVA file is available for VMware as well. I personally prefer the ISO. It lets me do more things on my own rather than building hard drive partitions for me and that kind of stuff. But no matter how you need to do it, there are some steps down here if you need to deploy it in a number of different ways. How to create a bootable USB. There's an article on which option you need to download. I also like to show folks this installation page is here on the wiki. If you click that, you'll go out to wiki.untangle.com, and you'll get to see kind of a visualization of what Untangle will look like on your network. We only install in 2 modes, router or transparent bridge mode. So as I said, transparent bridge mode is a great way to trial Untangle, because you don't have to change things on your network. You just drop us in between and let us kind of do our thing and show you that good reporting for a couple of weeks.
Great, thanks, Chad. A question just came in asking about the hardware. Say they mention Untangle has hardware, but you also have software. So what's the difference between the hardware and the software?
So the difference is we're a software company. but you need hardware to run Untangle. Untangle requires a dedicated device, whether physical or virtual. This isn't something you can run in tandem, on a Windows server in parallel. So we do sell a line of appliances to simplify that for you. The difference is these come pre-installed with Untangle, and they have warranties. If you do your own, even if you put a second network card in just some spare device, you're going to have to install Untangle through that process that we just talked about, and then also go through the configuration and all that stuff. So it's a little easier plug and play when you do an appliance from us. And if you're not, it always comes down to budget or personal preference. But if you're not a hardware person, if you don't want to build and maintain a little server, this is just a really, really easy way to go. As you can see, we can come in pretty low. I mean, these are Linux servers with Untangle pre-installed. This one's good for up to 50 devices. That's 4 network cards, and it's not even $500 retail. So it all depends. To me, with small businesses, it almost always comes down to budget, but it also depends real heavily on your comfort level supporting your own hardware. Do you want to do that, or do you need us to do it? I think that's the difference.
Great, thanks, Chad. I think that's it for now.
Okay, so we've talked about the apps a little bit. If you guys have any specific questions on apps or want an extended demo, like Shannon said, just email us, sales@Untangle, pre-sales at Untangle, or support@Untangle. If you download the trial, you can actually install the live support module during that 2 weeks, and you can call our support team out here in Colorado. So I want to talk about Command Center here before we wrap up. This is Untangle's Centralized Management. This is where we aggregate all of the reporting and audit logs and threat histories and all that stuff across your entire Untangle fleet. So I'm logged into a little demo account we have. You can see I have 5 appliances online, 2 offline. I'm logged in from home here in Colorado, but I have boxes all over the country. You can hover over a lot of these, click on some of these things like block threats if you want to get some information on them, ICAR, that's not a big deal to me. You'll also see audit histories, which are really handy. These are logins. So if someone's logged into the account right here, you can see this is my login earlier. It's a good thing to see and to know. I like to explain some of the differences between this dashboard and the actual Untangle dashboard over here. This dashboard is extremely customizable and as close to real time as Untangle will ever see. This dashboard is not. It is customizable. We can rearrange widgets. We can turn these off and on. I mean, my favorite thing about it is I can spin this thing until I'm dizzy. All right. But this is Command Center is at the forefront of Untangle's development right now, and that's where we're putting all of our current development prowess and goals, basically new features. So we're able to customize this dashboard now more than we were. But the biggest difference to me is that this is aggregate. Obviously, this is not looking at one specific device, but these max out at 30 days of information. So again, if you want a deeper dive, you would just come over to this appliance and get in the box and check those reports. You can do that really easily from here now. You can click on the map actually, and it'll take you to that appliance in your appliances list. So you can see it took me there pretty much instantly. This is one of mine, however, that has an expired trial. So that's not the one I want to remote into. I want to remote into Vandalay Industries #1 here. So this is one of my virtual machines. So if I just hit remote access here, well, I mean, someone counts to 10. I don't know if you'll get to 10 before we get to the dashboard or not. But this is how we want you to remotely access your Untangles now. This is even available on Untangles that run our free package. Command Center is limited when you don't have the complete package because it doesn't let you sync policies. You don't have apps. You can't create many policies on apps and sync them when you don't have the apps. Well, I'm in that dashboard. That was 10 or 12 seconds. It's pretty quick. So this, as you can see, is coming through our secure proxy server. This is assuming your admin access from Command Center. So this is how we want you to remotely access your devices now, if possible. You no longer, excuse me, you no longer have to leave all those, holes open to get into your WAN IP, for or SSH, things like that. So Command Center is the way to go for remote access. As you can see, I'm able to manipulate licensing here, update the software, reboot like we were talking about earlier. If I want to go add a new appliance to my account, this is where we do that. I skipped over alerts because I clicked on the map. This is where the alerts live. You can add an alert rule here. We're basically just doing strings. We do have about 4 of these built in here. You can see if something goes down, we'll see an appliance disconnect, that kind of thing. So there's a few built-in alerts in your Command Center you'll see, but it's a really open-ended system, and you should be able to create pretty much any alert there is. This is always as I said, kind of it's currently in development at all times right now. So Command Center is changing a lot really fast, almost every week. So it's come a long way in the year and a half since we've basically released it. It won an award last year for best new product for SMBs, but it's doing some very interesting things. As we said earlier, the Untangle box has built-in alerts, but all those alerts can do is email the admin account. These here are a lot more open-ended. When you create a notification profile here, you can tell it to send you an email, obviously, or maybe you want to get a PM in your Slack channel. You might have an IT ops channel. You could get a text message, pager. There's a lot more options for notifications here from the cloud. And as we talked about a lot before with Command Center and Untangle server alerts, the cloud is going to be up even if the box is down. So it's a very valuable tool. And as I said a few times, this is all included at no charge. This is your account management page now.
Hey, Chad, just before you leave Command Center, there was a question about in order to use Command Center, what version or what package for NG Firewall you need. So wanted you to cover that.
Sure. Yeah. And we have that listed too on our support knowledge base. Let me pull that up real quick too, just so you guys can see. If you click right here on Command Center, you can see, how am I eligible for Command Center? What makes me eligible. So there's some really interesting aspects to it, but the complete package is what makes Command Center really, really sing, because you're able to sync policies and all that kind of stuff. What you need to do is during Untangle's install wizard, it will ask you if you want to connect to Command Center, and you should say yes. And that will allow you to add it to your Command Center. So from there, it's available for remote management. Like I said, if you only have an app or two, you can sync a policy to those paid apps. The complete package is what gives you the full-blown policy template creation. So for MSPs, resellers specifically, it doesn't make a ton of sense to do individual apps for your customers, because the complete package makes this remote management so much better. It's an interesting thing, because the software itself doesn't change, obviously, but being able to push those policies from the cloud is huge. So if you're even a dispersed organization like a school district, or you're an MSP who has clients that are maybe rural, I hate for you to have to just drive around to different places, checking devices. So Command Center is paying for itself really, really quick these days when you do the complete package, because you can create those templates and things like that. But you will need to be on a recent version of Untangle. So we only support the 2 most recent versions for Command Center. So if you have older Untangles that are on like version 11, version 12, those won't be eligible for Command Center. I'm sorry. So anything running, version 13 and up will be available for full centralized management, especially with the complete package. That's what gives you all the cool synchronizing configuration template functions. That was kind of long-winded, but I think I answered it, right?
Yeah, that was
perfect. Okay. Sorry. So one of the other things I was going to touch on in Command Center, I mentioned Malwarebytes a couple of times. I'm in my hosts menu here. You can see this one over here shows the Malwarebytes logo, so it's got some Malwarebytes installed. It's one of the hosts on my network. I can jump in and actually look at web events that are happening. We'll probably see some Malwarebytes traffic in here somewhere. I can look at its sessions. One of the coolest things we can do now is running an endpoint antivirus scan from the cloud. You don't have to log into this PC or anything like that. We are still not pushing any kind of client agent to endpoints. We're just integrating with Malwarebytes Enterprise cloud accounts. So if you happen to use Malwarebytes Enterprise, or your clients don't have any endpoint protection, and you're looking at Untangle for gateway security, this is a really new, really interesting integration. So Malwarebytes Enterprise has a lot of really cool added value to me now if you're looking at Untangle. I'm personally an Apple user. I've had a Mac computer for 25 years, if I'm aging myself here. But I've been a Malwarebytes user for a decade or more, because they were one of the first free AV solutions for Mac OS. So I love Malwarebytes personally, but the enterprise solution is actually really, really nice, because they have a cloud management suite that we tie into. You can see all your endpoints. I've talked a lot about policy creation. This is where that lives. So if I want to create a full-on template, you can see we've got a bunch of templates in here from different devices. This is what requires the complete package. So if I wanted to, I could say this device is going to be my template, and I'm going to send it to other devices. This is a demo account. Like I said, these are mostly virtual machines with scripted traffic, so I won't really go through the whole thing here. But I could say that box has a cool configuration that I want this box to have. these two boxes, however many you have. If I want boxes B and C to always stay in sync when I change something on box A, I could do that as well. We can also sync all new appliances. This is not always practical for organizations, but if you do things like turnkey appliances, you have the same exact config and 2 or 3 devices, it can help. And then obviously you can change your sync here. You may not want to sync immediately. I don't know if you're going to break something on box A, that's going to trickle down to box B and C. So I tend to test those a little bit and then do like a daily sync, because you can set the time it syncs and all that stuff. And then I would just say next, and it would create my template. So this is the one that's creating the template, marketing 1, marketing 3, Vanilla Industries 1 will get the template. So I'm going to say create, and you'll see it'll add another one to my menu. If I only had an app or 2, I could come over here and do that for, say, application control. This is the one I like. I'm going to set that as the appliance policy for other devices. So that's kind of what I mean when I say Command Center shows its value when you have our complete package, because it gives you all this policy template configuration options. This is a really, really, really valuable tool for resellers and MSPs. If you have 1 Untangle or 2 Untangles, it'll help you because you don't have to, go to the office or go on site anymore. You can just do all this from the comfort of your couch and your tablet. And you'll see some reports here too. As I mentioned earlier, the reports are a little limited here. They go back 30 days. So if you want a full-blown, 6-month dive into your bandwidth application consumption here, you would just go over to the server and jump in. But I like that it gives you a quick breakdown here under the data. Microsoft is winning, SSL and HTTP obviously, but we see a lot of iTunes, Google Play, we'll always see Amazon, that kind of stuff. What we're looking at are mobile applications. This is the actual application signature protocol. Then I also want to point out here over on the account page, this is just your basic account management. This is also where we can change preferences in Command Center. If you want to change your password, turn off any of those widgets. This is also where we can create user notification profiles and create users for, I said notification profiles, I meant user permission profiles. So you can see my buddy Steve here has an account created. So let's go see what his permissions are. So he has access to this server, Marketing 3, VI number 1, and he has no access to my subscription and billing. So he's probably a network admin who just needs to manage that one server, right? But what if he decides he wants to also be my accountant? Well, he would need access to invoices, billing. So I'd give him full access to that. But then I don't like how he managed this box, so I take away his access to servers. So this is changing what this person sees when they log into Command Center. So Steve would log in tomorrow, and he would see he's not able to remote into any servers now, but he can see all my invoices if I save these changes. Let's just save them and see if he says anything. So the next time Steve logs in, it's going to look real different for him. So you can see he has no appliances assigned now. So that's a really handy thing. It depends on your organization, but if you have someone like an accountant is my favorite example that needs access to Command Center, and you don't want them to see any configurations, any servers, that's a real easy thing to do now with our users here. Then under our settings tab, I always like to show this is where we can enable automatic logins, 2-factor for Command Center, auto-assign subscriptions. You can also request a copy of your electronic record. This is really handy for folks like in the EU where they have the general data protection rights. This is also where you set up your Malwarebytes. So if you do have Malwarebytes Enterprise, this is where we go in and connect to the actual account and then leverage all the endpoints and all that. That is pretty much everything I want to show you guys. Let me jump back over to my slide deck here and we'll see what we've got left. Any questions we didn't touch on, Shannon? Any good ones, big ones?
No, I think that's about it. Someone did ask about HIPAA and GDPR compliance.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
We have a ton of documentation on the site. Untangle works with tons of HIPAA compliant organizations. There are some pretty interesting compliance standards here in the States. One of the most interesting ones is CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information Standards. That can include HIPAA, and it can include PCI, and it can include other things, because if you have like the example I remember was a little sheriff's office, or a county jail is what it was. They also had an infirmary. So they also had to have HIPAA, that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're very well aware of those things, and we're compliant with a lot of different standards. I would recommend jumping on Untangle.com and just searching for HIPAA. We have 3 or 4 different, white papers and blog entries and things like that.
Yeah, that's about it, Chad.
Cool. Just to wrap up here, I've probably gone over most of this already. Key differentiators between us and the rest. It is one of the easier ones to deploy. As I said, physical, virtual, cloud, our hardware, your hardware. It's all browser based. We do have, I think, the best reporting in the industry. As you saw, it's completely customizable. You can go back a year. A lot of people ask me in pre-sales, what is Untangle's best practices? How do I just set this up and get to filtering? We do have some pretty intelligent default settings that we tune to real use cases. This is set up in our installation wizard. So even if you buy an Untangle box, a piece of Untangle hardware with it pre-installed, it will take you through the setup wizard, because we need to know if we're going to be in router mode or bridge mode. And we're also going to ask you if you want to do recommended apps or install custom apps. If you want Untangle's best practice default settings, install our recommended apps. That's what you see on my demo server. You see all those checkboxes, blocking pornography and malware by default. And obviously, we can do policy management a number of different ways. Upgrades are free, seamless. And then, as I said a few times, this is basically freemium. It's a software platform that you add paid modules on top of with cloud-based centralized management. So it's a really cool solution. As I said earlier, it's an interesting thing that we do this all in one box. A lot of this stuff, virus blocking, SSL inspection, that's generally offloaded in other services because they use more or less efficient inspection methods. Untangle is not a new company by any means. I mentioned we're in our 16th year. We're getting some good recognition, winning some awards, all kinds of fun stuff you can see on our site. There's an awards tab on untangle.com. If you have any questions on Spiceworks, you can always throw the word Untangle in there and it'll ping me. I'll shoot you an answer. And then also some customer quotes. We have a lot of case studies on the site. Shannon throws new case studies on every week or two, every month. So there's lots of really good case studies for some organizations that will match your type of organization. If you're not sure how a city government would enjoy using Untangle, the city of Montebello out in California has been using us for a couple of years now and love it. So we have a lot of that kind of stuff on the site too, if you're just kind of in the research phase, kicking some tires. And last but not least, Shannon, who's our winner?
Yes, so for those of you that registered, you had the nice benefit of being one of the lucky winners to win a $50 Amazon gift card. So I'm going to announce one of those winners today because we're doing it based on those that are attending and are still attending. So just randomly looking through the list, let's say Jim Lockard. So Jim Lockard, congratulations. You'll be receiving, you'll be receiving an email from me shortly just to confirm that you're a real person, and I'll be sending over that code to you. So congratulations, and be sure to attend our next webinar because we'll be doing this sweepstakes as well for our upcoming webinars. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Thank you, Chad, for the great demo. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have a very specific question that comes up later on, feel free to reach out to us. Sales@untangle.com, support@untangle.com. We also have our forums. Chad, I'm not sure if you mentioned, it's our online community. It's our forums, forums.untangle.com. If you don't want to talk to us and just want to see what people are talking about, or maybe someone else has already answered your question, check out the forums. It's a great place to kind of chat with other Untangle users as well as Untangle employees. And like I said, we're always here to help, whether you're an existing customer or a new customer. We want to help make sure that your network stays protected. So please reach out to us with any questions, and we appreciate your time, and we hope everyone has a great day. Thanks, Chad.